Hi, Jez here from nigezza.co.uk, and I'm here with a Christmas project to make a gift box for a chocolate orange. Now, you might remember, if you've watched me for a while, back in February of this year, I made this box here for a Valentine's present that holds a chocolate orange. And I am going to remake this but with a Christmas design. Now this one I hand stamped some extra thick Whisper White cardstock. I'm going to do this one with cardstock, and then I'm going to matte DSP on top, so it's slightly different. Okay, so for this project I am using Tranquil Tide, and I'm going to use some of the lovely DSP from the Joyous Noel collection, and I've already cut my bits for the matting, and I'm using this sheet, and I'm picking out the Tranquil Tide there, and I will be using the beautiful ribbon, the reversible ribbon, which is Merry Merlot on one side and sort of copper on the other, which I thought goes really well with this and give it a lovely opulent Christmas feel. Okay, so I'll just put those bits to one side. So for the base, you need 12 inches by 6 3/4, and for the lid, you need 7 1/16 by 7 1/16. Okay, so it is a reinforced lid. So because I wanted it a little bit thicker for pulling on and off, and I thought maybe the recipient would reuse the box. Okay, so along the long side, we're going to score at 2 7/8 and 5 3/4 and 8 5/8 and I've written 1 1/2. It must be 11 1/2. I'm going to have to check. It is 11 1/2, but as I checked, because I went back onto my first original blog, and I have actually written 1 1/2 on the blog as well. So I do apologise for that. I will make that adjustment to the original blog, and obviously this blog will have the correct measurements on it. What a plonk. I know people have made it, so I guess people have I probably said it in the original video, and people have gone by what I said as well as and realised the mistake, but nobody's mentioned it. Or maybe they did and I just forgot. So on the short side, it's 2 7/8, and that's that. So yes, all the measurements will be on my blog, and I will make that adjustment to that measurement. And I'll probably link to the original one as well, if you want to have a look at that and see how I stamped it and things. So this one we're going to do a reinforced lid. So you're going to score at 1 inch and 2 1/4. And then you're going to turn and do it at 1 inch and 2 1/4 again, and you do that on all 4 sides. And it's really important to do the turning, because otherwise your lid won't fit, because the measurements are done so that this will end up just a smidge bigger than the lid at the base, so that it will go on and off quite easily. Right, so I'll move the scoreboard out of the way so we don't need it, but I do need my bone folder, and I haven't got it out. Let me just get it out of my pencil case. I've been on holiday, and I always take a few craft supplies when I go on holiday, and I haven't unpacked. I only arrived home in, well, I was going to say I arrived home in the early hours of yesterday morning. It was supposed to be the early hours of yesterday morning, but the flight was delayed. So I actually arrived home sort of at a normal time yesterday morning, but I missed a whole night's sleep. waiting around on the airport, delayed flights. Nobody likes that, do they? But rather have it coming home than going out. So yeah, had a lovely time on holiday. Went to Turkey for the first time ever. Never been to Turkey before, and I loved it. Had a brilliant time. So there we go. So there's those all done, and now we'll get these all folded and burnished as well. Do love Tranquil Tide and the new Merry Merlot as Christmas colours. They are fabulous, which is probably why I'm a huge fan of the Joyous Noel DSP, because it uses those colours. Right, schnips. What we want to do to make this box is we want to cut away this rectangle here, and I'm going to actually not use my snips. I'm going to use my large scissors because that's quite a big cut up. So because we're going to cut up each one of these as well, and we're going to slightly notch this side here. So I'm just going to do a little notch there and notch that at the top there, and then I want to cut just the other side of that. So we are going to, that's going to be the back. So we want this to be straight, so we want to actually notch in all the others because that's the bit that's going to fold back. So cut that one straight, go slightly on the inside of your score line. And then all these other flaps are going to have a little notch in so that it fits a bit better. That's why I like my big scissors, because you can do this nicely in one stroke. Let me just check with myself. Yeah, there we are. So I'm going to use fast fuse to be quick. So we're going to run some fast fuse down here. And that should match beautifully down there, the box. And then that's the back. So these are going to fold, 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 and that one's going to fold that way. I am going to use Tombow on this bit because I want the four edges to be well stuck, so that the chocolate orange doesn't just fall through. And I've got another chocolate orange to put in. So that makes it much easier to press down on there to get it right. And now we'll do the lid. I'm going to bring my snips back in for this because that makes it much easier. So, reinforced lid, made them before. You need to cut these outer rectangles out. Okay, so the way I do it is I go down, 2 slits, and then we're going to cut that off at a wedge. We're going to cut that off completely, and then we're going to wedge that there, and then wedge this tab. 3 snips, 4 wedges. Okay, and you're going to make that shape on all 4 corners. So 3 snips, well, it's a slice really, isn't it? 1, 2, 3, wedge, that takes that off, wedge, wedge, and wedge. And then we do the same on this side. Slice, slice, wedge, slice, wedge, wedge, wedge. And then the last one, slice, slice, wedge, slice, wedge, wedge, wedge. And there we have it. I've done a bit of a turn there as I went round, but it doesn't make any difference. That's perfectly fine. And we're going to put glue on these tabs and then on these straight bits there. So put some glue on our tabs. Match that up like so. All the way around. You could stick the mats on this before you stick it together. Some people find that easier, but I've decided not to because I have actually only just thought about doing that. But it makes no odds really, however you do it. And then we just want some glue on these flaps to fold down and stick, and that makes it a bit more reinforced and covers up the tabs. And then the last one. So I'm just going to get my bone folder and give those a good rub so it adheres really well. And then that fits snugly on the top, like so. Okay, so now we're just going to decorate by matting some DSP onto this lid and the base. Fits really snugly, as you can see. Okay, so what have I done? I have cut using the largest stitch square framelit. I have cut 5 squares and they will mat on the lid, and then I'm going to put them on each of the sides. So rather than mat all the way up to the top, I'm just matting them around like so. So there'll be a gap round the top, because it's such a snug fit that if I did it so the DSP was at the top, I would have had to have allowed another fraction for that, and seem to have lost a square. Oh, it's one there. So that's why I did that. And then I've cut for the edges, I've cut these rectangles, and I've cut them so they don't give much of a margin, because I'm probably, I haven't 100% decided, going to tie this ribbon round it, and I wanted to make sure that you could see the DSP if I tied it round. So the measurements for these, again, they will be on my blog, but they are on the other page of my pad. They are 1 1/8 wide by 2 13/16 long, so you need four of those. So I'm just going to stick these on using my Tombow. So I've got a little bit of wigglage, and I say you could stick these on before you make the lid up if you wanted to. You might find it a tad easier to do it that way. There we go, I think I've got that finally straight. Give it a good rub on the back. And then same with these. So you haven't got very much of a margin. With these, and then the way we're going to stick the base on the base is I'm going to line these up giving the same distance at the bottom as they've got on the side, just doing it by eye, and I'm going to do that around all 4 sides. So I'm going to carry on doing this, and I shall speed this process up. Okay, so you've seen how I do each one. Now I'm going to do the rest. So there we have it, they're all done, and now the lid will just fit on the top. You might find it fits better one way than the other. It usually happens with boxes. and then that slides down nicely, and it just goes over slightly the top, so you might want to make sure those top edges are stuck down really well. So that's the box. So now all we need to do is decorate. So to decorate, I am using my favourite Merry Christmas sentiment from Half Full. So I've got it mounted, and I'm going to do some heat embossing with some copper embossing powder. So I've got a scrap of Whisper White, because there's Whisper White in the DSP, and I'm going to use my embossing buddy. Remembered. Just run that over. Just realised I'm still wearing my all-inclusive band. Kind of hoping that actually I might get brought a Turkish Magnum about 3:30 in the afternoon when we were laying on the beach. They'd come round with these delicious, well, they were like Magnums, slightly smaller and just perfect for mid-afternoon cool down, because it was Scorchio. It was very hot. Wasn't quite expecting it to be quite so hot. It must have been about 27 degrees, which is about 84. So yeah, it was bearable. Some days it was a little bit cooler than that, and it's why I like holidaying this time of year, and why I'm so glad I no longer teach, so I can take my holidays at this time of the year. Also much cheaper. Okay, so let's just give that a little bit of a heat up. And I'm going to use the stitched oval to cut that one out, and I'm going to use a bit of the very beautiful glimmer paper, and I'm going to cut a scalloped oval out to mat it on. So I'm going to do that cutting out and come back to you. As you see, I've already been doing a little bit of it. So I've cut those out, and I'm going to stick that on there with some dimensionals. So I'm just going to fill those off, stick them on. I'm putting a few more on because it's glimmer paper, and it is sometimes harder to stick things on. So I'm going to stick 4 on. So this glimmer paper is Tranquil Tide, so it goes beautifully with the base that I've used for the box. I've already done one, and my idea is I'm going to stick one on the front there and one on the top. Okay, and I've used our little foliage sprig punch there, and I've cut out some sprigs. The glimmer paper comes in sort of Merry Merlot, Tranquil Tide and copper, and I was kind of thinking, oh, how am I going to do this? And I sort of played around with them, and I think what I've decided is to just use the copper glimmer paper and have it coming like that. That was sort of what I decided I wanted to do. Kind of tried it with the colours, and I didn't really like them as much, so I decided to just go for copper. But you can play, you might like it, do what you want. It's your creativity. So I'm going to stick these on. I'm going to use some glue dots, I think, to stick the sprigs in place, and then that way, I don't know where they come from, and then that way they'll have a little bit of movement. So So I'm going to stick a glue dot on there, have that coming out from the middle. Like so. And then I'm going to just put some Tombow on the back there because it's already got some height with the sentiment being popped up, so it doesn't need any more really. You could if you wanted to. And then I'm just going to centre that on the top there. Take the lid off so that I can press really well. So that it is well stuck. And I'm saying you've got a little bit of movement here in these sprigs, which is what I wanted rather than have them stuck down totally. And then I can't remember which is the front and which is the back of this box. That's the front. So on that one, that is where I'm going to stick this Merry Christmas. Not going to put sprigs around this one. You could if you wanted to, but I've decided to leave it. Stick the chocolate orange back in. And then stick that on. And it will go down. And you can have it so it's just resting on top of this DSP there. And then just a matter of putting some ribbon around it. I'm going to keep my glue dots because I'll probably use that. So I'm using this beautiful reversible ribbon, which is Berry Merlot on one side and a bit of Merry Merlot and copper on the other. And I've cut the length already. So I want the bow to lie that way. So I tie the knot at a 90-degree angle to where I want it, and then tie my bow. And you can do a bit of twisting so it is copper on the bow bits, but I actually like it. Made a right pig's ear of that one. I actually like it with the Merry Merlot showing through. We'll do this again. Never work, children and animals, and ribbon. And I've done it wrong again. We will get there in the end. Normally, I'm quite good at tying ribbons, aren't I? Tying bows. But sometimes my fingers don't do what I want them to do. There we go. Got ya. Got you, got you, got ya. Right, and I'm just going to check it's where I want it. I'm going to put a glue dot behind the knot so it holds in place. Make sure it's centre. And then I'm going to cut this. Not very straight, it would seem. There we go. So that's that done. And that's how it looks. So it is all very pretty, all very matching. And there's one more thing I'm going to do, because what I've made this for is I've got some nieces and nephews, and at Christmas time we give them money. We give them money so that they've got a choice of where they go to buy their presents, because as they get into the teenage years, it's really hard to buy for. And I like to give them a little bit of something as well, so a little bit of chocolate. So my idea is that they're going to open this up and it will have inside a little money envelope. So I just thought it was a nice way of giving money at Christmas. And so I'm going to make a little envelope for the inside, which is going to have money in. So I'll show you how I did the envelope. So to make my little money envelope, I'm using the envelope punch board. And I'm taking a piece of DSP that matches what I've matted, and this is 4 5/8 by 4 5/8, and we're going to go to the 2 3/8 mark and punch and score. I've used this loads of times, so I'm just lining up. I did this not so long ago, and although I've done it loads of times, somebody said they weren't quite sure what I did. So now we've punched and scored, you've got a score line there, and that score line you match up with that. It says score guide, and that's where you're matching that score line up to do your next punch and score. And you continue to do this on all 4 sides, matching the score line there with that little bit there. I use the Crafty Owl, who has got, if you Google Crafty Owl box buster envelope generator, and there is an online calculator that you just put in the size that you want boxes and envelopes for, and it tells you size of your paper and where to do your punch mark, and it's brilliant. And so you don't have to guess. So I'm going to just corner around these ends. You're not going to see them all, but I do them all because it depends how I stick it down. There we go. So that's it. And then like that. So I'm just going to do a little bit of Tombow there. Stick that down, and I'll just do a little bit on these 2 edges to stick that down. I will then fold up some money, put it in there, and I'll use a glue dot probably to stick that down. And then for the front, I've used Picture Perfect Birthday, and I've used Treat Yourself, and I've done this in exactly the same way as I've done the Merry Christmas, and so that is just going to get stuck on there. I've used this Treat Yourself before for different things, and I'm just going to stick that on with Tombow. I haven't used dimensionals on this one. I just stuck the sentiment directly on top because I don't want too much bulk. So stick that on there. As I say, I'll put some money in there, stick it down with a glue dot, then that fits on top there, with your lid, and that is a lovely present for Christmas, and it allows you give some money but also let them have a little present as well. Okay, hope you like that. All the details will be on my blog, nigezza.co.uk, and I think that will look lovely underneath the Christmas tree. Okay, you could of course just leave it as a chocolate orange for a tabletop gift, teacher thank you, whatever you fancy. Okay, see you again soon. Bye bye.